I will.
Sorry.
I should have brought the gavel in.
It worked.
I'll call to order the April meeting of the Oxford Planning Commission. Commissioners, we have the agenda in front of you. Just call your attention to case number 2947 that's been moved to the consent agenda. Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda?
2947?
Isn't that the one?
Sorry.
It is now.
Okay.
It was.
Okay.
Yep. All right, hearing no changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve? Second.
And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I hope you've had time to review the minutes from the March meeting. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the March meeting?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right. The minutes are approved. Do we have a staff report?
Don't believe we have a staff report.
There's not a staff report.
No staff report. Is there a building official report?
Other than
Okay.
what was included in the packet.
Gotcha. All right, we have 3 cases on the consent agenda. 2 of them are variances from setbacks, and 1 is a special exception that had been approved previously, and the approval ran out. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All
Who
in
was the
favor
motion?
to approve the consent agenda? Alexander? All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, the consent agenda is approved. That moves us to the public hearings.
You're good to go. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. First case for public hearing is case number 2949. The Lilly Company has filed a request for a variance from section 7.2.9.8 monument signs for property located at 2141 Highway 30.
Hey Stan, was that you that just joined us?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, great. We're just starting with your item right now. So, as the staff report notes, this property is about just under 7.5 acres, and it's on the north side of Highway 30. And it's just east of that Ed Perry Boulevard intersection. The property actually has 2 businesses on it, the Lilly Kubota and the Lilly Farm and Ranch. And the applicant is requesting a variance for a taller sign, a 12-foot tall freestanding sign. The applicant notes in the application that the variance is needed due to the geography being lower than the surrounding areas. The application states that the height difference at this site is 16 feet, has 16 feet of differential in vertical height. The application, or the applicant actually believes that the difference negatively impacts the site, and that the height of the sign is needed for it to be higher and more visible for the, for the business. While the adjacent property does have a higher elevation, and if you look, I've provided some screenshots from Google Maps. While it does have a higher elevation, the proposed location of the sign is about 250 feet east of that property line, and that's quite visible from especially from the intersection of Ed Perry Boulevard and Highway 30. Point the tractors for sale that are parked along the front portion of the property of the right-of-way are visible about a couple car lengths past that intersection, and the sign on the front portion of the building is also visible. The application also states that an 8-foot sign would be lower than the roadway, severely reducing the visibility of the sign. And this isn't necessarily the circumstance in this case, where the grade of the Lilly Kubota dealership is actually built higher than Highway 30, which will actually assist with the visibility of that sign. And with Some consideration that there are tractors that are parked, in this area, and that there are taller tractors, which makes that sign less visible. I mean, I think that there's enough frontage, from staff standpoint, there's enough frontage to, park those tractors in different locations to at least allow for a clear zone for that particular sign. And prior to the adoption of Vision 2037, taller pole signs were allowed in the city of Oxford. However, due to safety concerns created by taller signs, typically pole signs, those were actually eliminated. And so as a result, a monument sign style freestanding sign that helps drivers' eyes remain on the road while also allowing for motorists to more easily identify businesses were put in place. An added benefit of this is it reduces the visual clutter along our mixed-use commercial corridors. We have had a couple sign variances in recent history dating back to 2019. One, in fact, was across the street at Highway 30 collision. Maybe J.R. Judy might also remember this. I don't know that the other commissioners were on the commission at that time, but Mr. Kinnon at Highway 30 requested a 2 foot tall sign variance. At that time, monument signs across the city were limited to 6 feet. His property was actually below the grade of Highway 30, and so he was requesting a taller sign. The Planning Commission ultimately granted a 2 foot sign variance to allow for 8 feet. A month later, M-Trade came back with a similar request to allow for I think they wanted a 10 foot, but that was a 2 foot sign variance to allow for an 8 foot sign was allowed at that time. And ultimately, the Planning Commission encouraged staff to take a look at that sign standard, and we put in place that along a major highway, Highway 7, Highway 30, Highway 6, we do allow for a taller sign to be put in place there, 8 feet. So nonetheless, staff does not believe that there's a reasonable hardship to support this variance request. We did want to note that since there are multiple businesses located on this one particular piece of property, and the fact that it's just one parcel, this property is limited. A lot of times in these situations, we see signs with multiple businesses advertised. That's not what their request is. Their request is for I think it's a 12 foot, it's a 12 foot freestanding sign. Staff recommends denial of that request. The applicant's representative from the sign company is joining us, and we'll turn it over to you, Stan, if you would like to make any comments.
Honestly, I have nothing further to add. You covered.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Riddell or Commissioner Johnson, do you have any questions?
I don't.
No, sir.
All right. Is there a motion from the commission?
Make a motion, we deny the application.
We have a motion to deny the variance. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor of denying the variance?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell, how do you vote? Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, the variance is denied. Sir, our next case for public hearing is the Southern Land Holdings has filed a request for city utilities for development outside the city limits of Oxford that includes a preliminary plat for the Julep Phase 1 for property located on Old Taylor Road south of County Road 302.
It is located on Old Taylor, just past the city limits, in the PUD governing document, and lots are indicated as neighborhood center, mixed-use residential, neighborhood general, and neighborhood edge suburban. Lot types indicated on the preliminary plat match what is shown. Lot dimensions by lot type are specified in the PUD document and are reflected on the plat. Street types are stated in that HUD governing document and are reflected in the preliminary plat that are broadly consistent with street types found in section 4 of the Land Development Code. Turning radii may need to be altered somewhat near some roundabouts to allow for proper fire access. Landscape elements, including street trees and detention pond plantings, are indicated. They're plants with the LDC standards, and minor adjustments to landscape plan are needed for parking lot trees. Engineering has provided comments related to water and sewer, traffic and access, sidewalks, and stormwater management. And staff recommends approval of the request for extension of city utilities for phase 1 with the 6 conditions that are listed in the staff report. And Don's here if you have any questions of the engineer.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions from the commission?
I got one question about the roundabouts. Are we talking like adjustments like Capitol Street in Jackson, or just like a foot? I mean,
Yeah, so there's only one roundabout.
Okay.
And it's in the interior of the subdivision. It's really not designed as a roundabout, more so than a four-way stop
Okay.
with a roundel, if you will. But that's the way it's designed. It's not designed as a free-flowing roundabout. It's gonna be in a
Yeah.
little cul-de-sac area.
Yeah, okay,
right
yeah,
here.
all right.
So you're not looking at a high volume of traffic. It's not designed, it's more so for aesthetics than it is
Okay.
for anything else. And the geometry of that intersection, you can see it's, you know,
Questions? I have a question about just the drainage, because it's all going down to Ernie Branch. And, I mean, I think at one level, it's all answered by, it'll have to satisfy the stormwater code, and, you know, if it meets code, it meets code. But I guess I am a little bit concerned about the volume of water coming off a big development like this and going past Windsor Falls and those other developments over there. Have y'all done any calculations on that?
oh yeah, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's gotta meet the land development code, which, you know, accounts for all of the post-development, that the subdivision, you know, will have in it. All of the impervious surface and everything is accounted for the 2, the 10, the 25, and the 100-year storm event. So, I mean, we're detaining everything before it leaves our property. So, theoretically and hopefully, you know, nothing will adversely impact any adjacent landowner.
Okay. The other question was about the water demand. There was comment in there that it would, fully developed, it would be like an increase of 25% to the city's water demand. And I realized that the developer bears the burden of the infrastructure getting to the development, but I was just wondering what considerations have been taken into account on the city side, like the resource itself, the pumping stations, and how that would be handled.
So any infrastructure that is going to be necessary as a result of this development would be the developer's responsibility. And we are looking, they provided an early preliminary plan for each of the phases for the entire development to say this is their water demand as they move. And we know those will be updated as they go through each phase. And so we're looking at it, we looked at it now, we will continue to look at it. And if we identify that we're going to need additional infrastructure, then that would be their responsibility. So, but once we begin, once this phase of homes are in place, then we will begin selling water. And so there is also going to be the revenue that comes from selling water, just as it does from other citizens in the city. So once everything is online, it begins to fall in line with our users.
The other thing with that is I spoke to Rihanna today about it, that it is a huge demand increase in the city, and it's a huge infrastructure cost increase, you know, for us to run a 16-inch line all the way out there. We're gonna look at, in the next couple of weeks, trying to maybe come up with another solution, maybe a ground-mounted storage tank, so that we can run a line that's smaller in size, diameter-wise, to the site, pump it into a ground-mounted storage tank, so you have So you're increasing the city's capacity along with the necessary pressure that can be built up in periods of low demand. So you really would never see an effect. I mean, that's the goal anyway, is not to see any effect on the current city users, and that's our plan. We just have to get together and get with the city's water model, really. So.
Okay. Questions? Commissioner Riddell or Commissioner Johnson, any questions?
No, sir.
Anyone in the audience, such as it is? All right,
Ms. Pat, sir.
yes. Is there a motion on the request for city utilities for case number 2951?
I make a, subject to the 6 conditions set forth in the recommendation.
Have a motion to approve, subject to staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, the request is approved. Just for clarification, is it approved or is that just a recommendation?
It's a recommendation that goes forward.
Okay. Thank you. If there's nothing else to come before the commission, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
I know.